Brave New Films has released a new video series where they talk about an issue that we actually focus on here at the TYT Network quite a bit, the fact that we overcriminalize nonviolent offenders. Now, it's a 3-part series, and you can actually watch it on bravenewfilms.org/overcriminalized or /overcriminalized. And it's a really, really important project that they've worked on. So they focus on 3 different issues that people get criminalized for. One of them, of course, is drug abuse. Another one is homelessness. And they also focus on poverty, people who are basically victims of being overcriminalized because they're poor. Now, according to Brave New Films, in each of these 3 episodes, we explore vexing social problems that we currently criminalize all over the country: mental illness, substance abuse, and homelessness. We sent our production team to San Antonio, Seattle, and Salt Lake City to profile 3 new programs that are actually working. And that's what I love about it. Not only are they shining light on a serious issue here in the United States, they also focus on solutions. So with that said, let's take a look at a video that kind of gives you a sense of what they talk about.
So many major social problems come to the criminal justice system to be fixed because there isn't something else out there.
I got arrested about 34 times due to drugs, over and over and over again.
The youngest of our 4 was diagnosed a paranoia schizophrenic. When he was totally out of control, I would have to call the police on him. They didn't know what to do.
You get arrested just because you're homeless.
They arrested me at least 18 times.
Don't ask the criminal justice system to do it all, because the only thing we really know how to do is send people to prison.
What if we tried something different?
We finally sat down and said, well, what we really want to do is have another option for the officer on the street other than taking them up to jail. What if instead you could take them right to a treatment program? And that's what the LEAD program does.
We decided what we would do first is train law enforcement officers in the 40-hour crisis intervention training, so that they're trained to recognize mental illness.
Instead of asking people to change their lives before we gave them housing, we chose to give them housing along with the supportive services and then allow them to change their lives if they wanted to.
Look, I love this series, and it's a well-established fact that I love Brave New Films, and I'll tell you why. So you watch the San Antonio one of those videos, right? You should watch them all, but you get a sense, like, of course we should train our cops to recognize mental illness. When we do, and in a very red state, mind you, right? Yeah. It turns out it works great. And so then we don't have to cover the stories on the Young Turks where guy comes in, oh, he was, we couldn't handcuff him. He was acting erratically. So we tased him, we pepper sprayed him, we shot him.
Right.
No, just hold on. Try to assess the situation as you're supposed to do and figure it out. Turns out if you give the proper training, it totally works.
Absolutely. And I love that, you know, the documentary or the video where they focus on San Antonio makes you realize just how untrained local police are when it comes to dealing with mental illness. A lot of them have absolutely no training. So San Antonio really honed in on that issue, and they focused on what the right response is when a cop is dealing with someone who has a mental illness, and it has worked. They don't use excessive force when dealing with someone with a mental illness. They have the training necessary to handle the problem. And you know, another issue that always amazes me is the fact that people are being criminalized for homelessness. They're poor, they're living on the streets, and they have nowhere to stay, right? So if they're caught sleeping on the streets, they'll get cited. In a lot of cases, if they're acting erratically, they'll get thrown in prison. It just doesn't make any sense, and I love that Brave New Films is focusing on this. Look, we incarcerate more people in the United States than any other country in the world. If you are going to say that we are the land of the free, you got to do something to work on that statistic.
It costs us a tremendous amount of money. So that resonates. People go, wait a minute, why are we spending my money to house the homeless in a prison where it costs so much more, rather than if we just drove them right over to the facility, it costs us less.
Yeah.
It just, so once you realize it makes no sense, then the answers become a lot clearer. And if you have the right models, hopefully that idea can spread. And so that goes to my larger point about Brave New Films. They're celebrating their 10-year anniversary now, and they're on the watch, right?
Yep.
You need somebody on the watch to make sure that they hold people accountable and do real reporting, but because unfortunately so much of our mainstream media has become the establishment media just puppeting, because that's part of why they started doing documentaries in the first place. They did, if you remember, Uncovered the War on Iraq, when that was back in '04, when basically Democracy Now!, us, and Brave New Films were the only people on a national scale talking about this is crazy, with this Iraq war is nonsense. Remember, MSNBC at the time was conservative. They're firing people left and right for criticizing the Iraq war. And Robert Greenwald and Brave New Films, they laid out a case where people were like, oh, yeah, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This war doesn't quite make sense. And it's amazing how much that winds up resonating once you at least have one place where you can direct people and go, look at this, and to get them to change their minds, and it wind up having an effect on think tanks, et cetera.
Absolutely. I mean, if you want to talk about credible journalism, they're doing incredible work with their documentaries. Not only did they do the documentary in 2004 about the war in Iraq, they also did Outfoxed, where they focused on Rupert Murdoch's attack on real journalism. They really shed light on the situation with Walmart employees and how they're being abused. They put the Koch brothers on the map, and all of a sudden people are having a conversation about legalized bribery in the country. I mean, they're doing great work, and I love this new series that they're working on. Again, if you want to watch the videos, they're very easy to find. bravenewfilms.org/overcriminalized.
One last thought. You know, you might think now in the year 2014, oh, well, everybody knows Fox is biased, right? Of course they're a conservative network. Even their fans would say they're conservative, right? But you have to remember what the attitude was back in 2004 when Brave New Films did the movie. And it was maddening back then. I was in the middle of it and I knew it, right? Everybody else, no, they're news. You're crazy. No,
Yeah.
CBS, ABC, NBC, everybody, no, they're legitimate news. Why? Because they're going to get hired by them, or they could get hired by them, or their friends were hired by them, right? No, they're great news. They're objective. They're absolutely. And so when Robert did the movie and you saw it, you couldn't deny it anymore. I mean, there was the internal memos telling them, make sure you do propaganda for Republicans.
Right.
It was right there, right? And then they showed tape after tape of them doing the propaganda on air. So then they turned around after that and were like, well, I mean, look, that's old news. Everybody knows Fox News is conservative. Well, it got to be old news because of Brave New Films.
Yeah.
So you might not remember that. Some of you do, I'm sure. You might not know how it came to be that Fox News was outed as the Republican propaganda that it is. Well, it got outed by good people like Brave New Films working hard to make that happen.
Yeah.